Here's one that I'm excited for, Will. Android Auto is getting its biggest upgrade ever, and it's rolling out, I believe, right now. Now, I am an Android Auto user. I don't know if you have it in your car. Do you, Will?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it came alongside or shortly after Apple CarPlay. Of course, the concept here, plug in your smartphone, and then your display in your car is at that moment overtaken by this overlay, which is connected to your phone and gives you access, in Android Auto's case, to the various Google apps you might want to use while on the road. Most importantly, of course, Maps. Now, obviously, a lot of people, they just use their phone. Just pop open Maps, put the phone in the cup holder, whatever, or a mount and call it a day. But what Android Auto aims to do, or Apple CarPlay, is actually give you the features and functions that would be useful while driving in a UI that's easier to interact with while driving, which is kind of important because when you're driving, Will, if you pick up the phone, it's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's distracting. There's other things on your phone which you probably shouldn't be doing while driving, and then some that you should. So I've been using Android Auto actually quite frequently. I was on a trip recently. I used it the whole way because it's got the traffic in the map. Of course, the car has the nav as well, but I find this one to be more accurate. It can show you the red zones, the traffic zones. It can reroute you on demand. But anyhow, it hasn't been touched. It's been the exact same since 2014. And it's like, man, if they'd given up on this, you had to be worried at a certain point, especially if you liked it. Like, what's going on here? So they updated it, and I actually think it looks really good. I'm excited to try it out. They've shown off several dark mode screenshots here, or not screenshots, examples of screens. And the emphasis seems to be on the look, so it's a whole new aesthetic, but then also the way you interact with it, and the fact that it can now multitask, which the old one was a lot of in and out. It was a lot of like, you're exclusively in the one app, and that's it. And if you want to go to the other app, you back out and go back in. So if you're in the nav, for example, Will, and you want to go back to the audio screen, you got to go all the way back and close out of your map and then go back to that. It's a lot of steps. And the whole point of this thing is to stop you from being distracted and to eliminate steps. So the new one, it puts a kind of a nav bar either on the left-hand side or down along the bottom. And that'll have a home button, a microphone for assistant, which I use a lot as well in the car. And it will show you, for example, your navigation details, even if you're in the music app, or your music details if you're in the nav app. So multitasking in such a fashion that would be really useful while driving. So I think it looks really exciting. I'm glad there's finally an upgrade. It's crazy to think that it's been almost 5 years since Android Auto rolled out. It's a bit, that's wild. Oh, that was what the old one looked like. That's the one I'm familiar with. This looks so much better. Look at that, Will. So Will's showing a little video here of the changes, and it just seems so much more modern. And it's a lot like the phone. You see your apps in a grid style, just like Android. And then the bottom is how you interface with everything. You go home, or you see your other app that you use most recently, or you see multimedia keys within the map section instead of these weird cards. It just looks so much better. I'm kind of pumped about it. Maybe it puts a little pressure also on Apple to do something with CarPlay, but it also brings up this conversation of like, you've got all these manufacturers, these automakers that are investing so heavily into their own dedicated OS. And then still it's like, obviously you want your Google apps. Obviously you're going to want real maps in there. And the minute you make that decision, it's like, well, what does it matter what the default thing looks like? I'm going to plug in my phone. I'm not saying you have to get rid of it completely. There are some advantages to the dedicated kind of in-car system. But this is like, you start to look at what they're doing with this interface, and it's like, man, it feels like everybody should be using it if your car supports it. That's the other thing. We got to get more cars supporting it, obviously, for people to take advantage of. But I have found it to be very convenient, and there's a brand new version of it, which I think is exciting. So be on the lookout for the update, because apparently it's rolling out right now.